Hey guys, welcome back. This video is going to be about soil sampling and soil health, why it's important. It's not even going to scratch the surface about how important soil is, but hopefully you'll learn something. If you don't have any experience with taking soil samples, you'll get to learn a little bit about that and then the different methods we have for pulling samples. I'm not an expert on like applying nitrogen, the NPK, so nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, but I'll try to explain kind of the bare minimum of it from what I understand and how people make fertilizer recommendations. But it's really just, I guess I can cover that right now. Your nutrient requirements are different based on crop type. So if you were growing peas put nitrogen back in the ground, and because it's a legume, they're nitrogen fixating. And then corn, for example, takes nitrogen out of the ground. So if you have a field you just grew peas on and a field you just grew corn on, you're gonna have different soil sample results because those plants use two different amounts of different nutrients. So this is why it's so important to test your soil and to take care of it and to make sure you are using the right practices to make sure that your soil health will be good in the future, because the steps you take now impact the soil health you have later. So there's a lot of concepts and practices that go into how important your soil is and how you can manage it, and I can't cover it all in this video, but hopefully you'll just learn a little bit in this one. So here we go. So I'm going to show you guys real quick how to take a soil sample. I'm in our pea field right now. Normally you take soil samples when there is not plants on it, when you need to get data for what kind of fertilizers you need to get on your field, or the nutrients that you're lacking, or other things that you need to know. So I'm just gonna plop you on the ground and I'll show you what the soil probe looks like. I'm holding it right now. It's got this little collection spot. You shove it, ow, that was my belt. You shove it in the ground, 0 to 12 inches. So why did I say 0 to 12? You can't not get a soil sample. Okay, so you put it in the ground like a foot deep, because that gets a pretty accurate representation. Sometimes it's only like 6 inches deep. It depends on what you're looking for and stuff like that. So here we go. Sheesh, it's a little moist. You're gonna make sure there's no soil in it from the last time you sampled, and then you're just gonna choose a spot and push it in, and then you twist it and you pull it back out. Got my soil and the probe. Yeah, it's nice and moist. This is our field with some problems in it, but it's okay because there's supposed to be problems. That's what we do. That's a rock. But in some soils you can see like the divisions of layers. So there's the top layer, which is the O layer, A layer. My soils class is failing me at this moment, but my memory of soils. So there's the O, A, there might be B after that, and then I forgot exactly what order, but in some soils you can see it, some you can't. So Idaho does not have, well, the soils in southern Idaho don't have much of an organic layer because it's so dry here, and we just, very small percentage is that dark, rich, good stuff that's good for growing plants. Isn't that funny? So Magic Valley, woohoo, look at us go. So this part I'm just going to cover really fast. So when you sample a field, there's a couple different options. You have composite sampling, which is taking 5 general samples out of the whole field. So if you have a field, I'm going to use my little notebook. So let's draw a little field here. Right, this is the field. And a composite sample, you're just going to walk in the field and you're going to take one like right there, right there, right there, right there, right there, right in that corner. So you can kind of see that's a dice pattern. You can do whatever kind of pattern you want for a composite sample as long as it gets a general accurate sample of the whole field. So you don't want to just take all 5 of your samples like right in that corner, because that wouldn't make very much sense, right? Or like right in the middle right there, right? So with composite sampling, you just have to make sure it's all spread out, all even, not exactly like on the money, but general. If you have a slope in your field, make sure you sample that, as well as the bottom of the slope, the part where your plants don't come up, everything. And then with zone sampling, you're going to have a whole field again, but you're going to use some satellite imagery or get a different reading on your field that tells you like, hey, you're lacking some nutrients, or this soil is different than this soil. So after, for example, a Veris EC sled. And Veris EC sleds are little things that hook onto a little hitch on the back of a gator or a tractor. You pull it through your field. It has these like discs that go through your field, through the soil, and it's going to send little arches, and it's going to test the electric conductivity of your soil. So that's going to show you like where a lot of your salts are at, where some nutrients are different. It's going to give you an image that's hooked up to the computer that's going to show you like, hey, these are areas that are similar. It's going to group them together, right? So after you run through your field, you get that little imagery. It's going to break it up into zones for you. So you might have like 3 colors, right? Red, white, and blue. We're going to go red, white, and blue because it's almost the 4th of July. So if you have red, white, and blue, it's 3 different colors. That is going to be 3 different zones. So your zones are where your soil is different than another zone. So let's say your red soil is in these boxes that I've scribbled out, right? That's where all your red stuff is, okay? So you're gonna take 4 or 5 samples out of these. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Because those are your red zones. And then you're gonna put that all in one bucket, 1 sample, and then you're gonna sample, let's go like this. Let's say this was your white zone. So this zone is different than the red zone, right? There's a different little marking on these, so that would be, there's different nutrients. So you're gonna pull 5 samples out of this. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're gonna mix that all up, put it in a bucket, put it in the same bag. And then, let's say, oh, that's a bad marking. I use circles for this one, but this bottom piece that has the circles in it, let's say that was your blue section. That you got your results from, and you are going to sample that, 4 or 5 samples out of that. So that means 15 samples out of the whole field, right? So there's 5 coming out of the red, 5 coming out of the white, and 5 out of the blue. And it doesn't have to be 5, just enough to fill the bag, but kind of as a general, we just take 5 samples so you have enough to mix it up and fill the bag up and then get it sampled. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. That's what zone sampling is. So I see zone sampling being a very efficient way of really seeing what your field is going through and what's going on out there. But composite samples, you still learn the same amount of stuff basically. Zone sampling allows you to get more accurate with your fertilizer and nutrient spread, and then like areas that have a higher salt content or areas that you're struggling with your nitrogen, like there might be more nitrogen deficiencies in one area of the field than another, and that zone sampling is going to tell you that. A composite sample won't tell you where you're lower in nitrogen or higher in nitrogen in your field. So that is a little bit behind strategies of soil sampling. And I know that's not all of them, but if you have any more questions about that, be sure to let me know. A quick thing to add is if you're not familiar with soil sampling and like the timing of it, you sample in the spring for sure before you put on your fertilizer and your planting and everything like that. And then possibly in the fall, like really just whenever you feel that there's a need to know what's in your soil, and like before you plant things, before you put things on, stuff like that. So I hope that's clear enough. It makes sense in my head, but I know that things that make sense in my head don't always come out right. So that is just a little bit behind the timing of soil sampling. Alright, that is also all I have for this video about scratching the surface on soil sampling and why your soil is important. I will be posting another video of when I got to talk to Mitchell about the Haney test, and that's what he does with his company Continuum Ag, so keep an eye out for that one. It'll be up soon. I just have to make a little introduction and yeah, you know, do the whole video thing. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.